Hey, gang, it's Carl White broadcasting actually from the kitchen here of the secret headquarters here at the Mortgage Marketing Animals. Again, my name is Carl White. I'll be your host here for just a little bit here. This is going to be a bit of a quickie, but I think it's going to be really impactful. It certainly was to me when I tell you the story about what I'm going to tell you about. But you're listening to Loan Officer Freedom, number one podcast in the world today for loan officers. And by the way, thanks for all those great reviews. I really, really, really appreciate it. Um, so let me let me go right into this one. And again, I think I told you I'm flying solo on this one. I had a conversation with somebody, and it just struck me so. I don't know. It just really struck me that I thought, well, let me hit the record button and share this because this is too good not to share. So I'm going to title this one "That's Small for Me." That's small for me. You go, Carl, what does that mean? Well, I was on the phone or actually on a Zoom meeting, and he said, the guy I was talking to said, Carl, that's small for me. That's small for me. And I was taken back at first. And then I realized he was right. Let me step back a little bit and tell you what led up to this groundbreaking truth that's small to me that all loan officers should know about. So I was doing a private Zoom meeting with a loan officer who set up the meeting to discuss how to grow his business even more. And in this Zoom call that I did with him, I asked him what his current volume was at. And he said, well, Carl, my team did a little over $1 billion last year, right? Billion with a B. So, yeah, some people are still really kicking butt. So I think that's message number one. But he said, my team did a little over $1 billion last year. And just being perfectly transparent, knowing that, my team did, well, I mean, that was great. Don't get me wrong. A great, fantastic number, of course. But knowing that my team, well, we did more than that last year. Not a lot more, but we did more. And so I responded, well, brother, that sounds like a pretty good solid number to me. And I saw the frantic look in his eyes. We were on a Zoom. I saw his frantic look, and it was one of almost of like desperation as he blurted out, but Carl, that's small for me. That's small for me. I know I can do so much more, and I know you can help me. Right. So it occurred to me he was right on both occasions that number was small for him. And, again, this sounds kind of weird for me to say this, but I'm known for helping loan officers increase their loan volumes while decreasing their stress levels at the same time. So when he said that the billion for last year's production was small for him, again, I could see the desperation, like the desperate look in his eyes. It was that same desperate look that sometimes loan officers have when they're closing one or two loans, and or maybe they goose egg the last couple months, and they know that with just a few tweaks they could be at 5 or 8 loans a month. And so he looked at me in desperation of that small for me, just like the desperate look in his eyes was like his own monthly mortgage payment was in jeopardy. See, what normally happens is a loan officer gets to around, and it's different numbers, right? But let's say 5 or 8 loans a month, and they say to themselves, hey, this is good for me. And what they're really saying is because that's all I'm capable of, right? And then they kind of back off of doing the outbound prospecting, right? That very activity that got them there, they stop doing that activity because in their minds, they've already pre-framed that 5 or 8 loans is good for them. Same thing's true with somebody that's used to closing 0 or 1, and then they close 3 or 4, or the same thing like people that are, when they're closing like 20, and then they stop doing the activity that got them to 20 because they think that's good for them. So it happens to somebody at like 2 loans a month. It happens to some at 4 loans a month, some at 20. And this guy, here he was at $1 billion, and you would think that he goose egged the month before. So, somebody that, like, what I'm talking about here today is we have to reset that picture of how we see ourselves. So we have to reset it of, oh my gosh, I'm capable of so much more. That's like, my team, we close hundreds of loans each month, right? Hundreds. Well, if we closed like 21 month, we would be all hands on deck, call the fire department, 911. Oh my God, what's wrong? Something's broke. Now, if we did that same thing and had that same mentality of like, if we if I like I reported to you that we close hundreds of loans. If I would reframe in my brain, oh my gosh, something's wrong. We only closed a few hundred loans. Normally we do 1,000, right? If I put that picture in my head, I'm 1,000 loans per month team, right? I'm heading 1,000 loans per month team. When I reset that picture in my head, that's when I'll close 1,000 loans, right? That's how that works. So, kind of what I'm saying, I hope you get what I'm saying, because this is such a big deal, is that like the real growth, like let's say somebody closing 5 or 8 loans a month and they think, well, this is good for me. The real growth, right? The exciting stuff for me is when those people look at 5 to 8 loans as so much less than what they're capable of and look at that as low volume. And I'm using air quotes here, low volume. And as a reason, and because they got that such low volume, they only close 5 or 8 loans, that they get frantic and treat it like they're 3 touchdowns behind in the third quarter, right? That's when mountains move. When we reset that picture of, hey, this might have been good for me last year or the year before, but not this year. This year I can do so much more, and I need to treat it like 3 to 5 isn't a win. 3 to 5 is an epic, like something's wrong. It's just resetting that frame in our mind of what we'll accept. Same thing for those of you closing 10 or 15. Don't be okay with that. Don't be okay with closing 10 or 15 loans. Reset that picture of, I'm worthy of so much more, right? The activity that got me to 10, I must have stopped doing the activity that was helping me grow, and I've just rolled back into mediocrity and being okay. I'm able to pay my bills, so I'm okay. Screw that, right? Because what if you found out that closing even more loans can come with even less stress? Let me say that again. What if you found out that closing even more loans comes with even less stress? I found that to be absolutely true. And if that is true for you, what if you found out closing more loans is even less stress than closing less loans? When would you want to know about that, right? When would you want to know about that? So we all have to reframe that picture that we have of ourselves of what's possible, or even what is possibly possible, right? We have to believe that maybe we can't grasp what possible, but what is possibly possible. And when we reframe that picture of ourselves, of what we're capable of, I'm going to tell you right now, that's when the magic happens. That's when we see epic growth. Like for me, just being perfectly transparent again, and I hope this doesn't come across uncool to all the people that's helped me in the past, but I would just like, I remember meeting with a loan officer that him and his team was closing like 50 loans. This is early in my career. They were closing like 50, 60 loans a month. And I remember thinking, well, gosh, he ain't that great. He's not all that. He's just a dude, right? There's nothing special about him. And then I started closing of my own personal production, 50, 60, 70 loans a month, right? That's when it started happening. I saw somebody else doing it and went, he ain't got nothing. I mean, he was fine person, right? Or I remember another one, this lady, she was in charge of this team, and they were doing, I think it was like 125 or 130, somewhere in that range, somewhere between 100 and 150. And I remember thinking, I mean, she's a nice lady and everything, but she's not Superwoman. She's just just a person, right? I mean, sometimes you meet people like Anthony Robbins, you go, holy cow, they're bigger than life, right? Or Oprah. Those of you know me, I'm a big, huge Oprah fan. You go, well, gosh, Oprah can walk on water, right? But we all know those loan officers that are kicking butt, that they're just normal people, right? And I think that helps set that level that or that mindset that if he can do it, if she can do it, right? And that's an old cliche. We all know this, but we have to make it real and just reset that image that we like when we look in the mirror, what do we see? And right now, when I look in the mirror, I see a person, a guy, right? That is in my mind capable of closing hundreds or having a team, right? Closing hundreds of loans a month. And I do. That's reality. I really do. That's what we close each month. When I can look in the mirror and see an image of a person that can close 1,000 loans a month, that's when I'll close 1,000 loans a month. And so I'm in the process of doing that myself, like repicturing that image of what of that's who I am as a person, right? Or that's who I am as a business person, right? I hope I'm making sense here. And one thing I think we have to, we just have to know what's possible or what's possibly possible. And I'm going to tell you right now, that's when the magic happens. That's when we see epic growth, right? That's when we begin to see like real wealth for our family. And that's when we can really give back to our community. Me and the lovely Mrs. White, I hope it's okay to say this, me and the lovely Mrs. White were at the grocery store this weekend, and outside we see our local school, and the cheerleaders were out there fundraising so they could go to their first state championship competition, and they needed to raise a certain amount of money to make that happen. And my wife said, I always wanted to be a cheerleader growing up, and I'd like to help those young ladies. I said, do what you think you need to. She said, well, I don't have that much money in my wallet. And so we drove home, and she grabbed her checkbook and came back and stroked a check and made it possible for this team to go to the state championship now. Right. So I'm not saying all this stuff just because we want to make greedy money and, and buy his and hers Rolls Royce, right? Or his and his or hers and hers Rolls Royce. Nothing wrong with that, I guess. But I'm not something I'm talking about. I'm talking about like giving back to our community too. Right. So I'm not saying that we aren't proud and encouraged by your current accomplishments. Right. You may have done very well so far, of course. Right. But what if that is small for you? Like, when would you want to know that? What if that was small for you? Yeah. Yeah. So I want to help reset that image that you see of yourself when you look in the mirror of who you are and what you're capable of, and that you're capable of great things. And by the way, your community is counting on it. Like those fine cheerleaders, those fine young lady, are those, gosh, did I see that right? I hope you know what I'm saying. They're fine young group of young ladies that are cheerleaders now can go on their camp because, people like you, me, go out there and do what it takes to make things happen. We reset that image. We sponsor, I think it's like 6 or 7 little league baseball teams here in the community, Maria and I, just as a way of giving back. Right. So it's not just about being greedy. I want like, we're not trying to reset that image just for you and your family. Your community's counting on you, like your local church or your local, whatever. Your community's counting on you. Right. Maybe there's a buddy of mine helps build schools in Haiti. Right. It's a much better calling than just me or you, adding another bedroom to our house. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But the community's counting on you. So it's time to step up to the plate, right? And I'm saying that to myself, Carl, it's time to step up to the plate. It's time to help even more. Don't just help one cheerleading team. Maybe there's 10 that need that help, right? Maybe, I don't know, maybe that passion that you have, maybe you share that with me and I want to help too, right? In addition to the extra bedroom in the house, right? Nothing wrong with any of this stuff. Anyway, kind of rambling here a little bit. I hope this comes across in the way that I mean for it too, that you're worthy of greatness. And people are counting on you to make it happen. And it's just a matter of resetting that visual image of yourself, right? So, hey, just real quick, we put together our new training site, and I would love to give a demo of it to you, right? So I'd love to demo you and show you our new site on closing more loans with even less stress. And so if you go to freedomclubdemo.com, 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 freedomclubdemo.com. It'll set you up it'll ask you a couple questions so we can best prepare for the call. And then it'll take you to a calendar, and you just pick a time and day that works best for you. And I'd love to walk you through the new training site and see if it's something that might interest you, right? And because I'm convinced we can help you re-image yourself into who you're worthy of, right? So anyway, that's it. That's what I got for you here today. So, boy, I hope this come across. This was such an impactful thing when he said that's small for me, and the frantic look in his eyes. I just had to come in here. Normally, I take a bunch of notes and I'll spend like an hour preparing for this. This one, I literally just got off the call and clicked the record button because I just had to share this while I was inspired to do that. So, thank you so much for letting me be a part of your day. I really, really, really appreciate it. It's an honor to be part of your loan officer journey. And boy, thank you so much for those reviews. That really helps get the algorithm out. So that's it. freedomclubdemo.com. I'll talk to you when you call in, and I'll see you on the next episode of Loan Officer Freedom. Thanks again, everybody. Bye-bye.